We have some great glitch stories in this episode, I think. Can't wait to read what you think. But before that, I want to say, welcome back to the channel, friends. Thanks for being here. If you're new here and like glitch stories and other unusual tales, well, you found the right place, because that's what we do. We just started the channel 3 weeks ago, so any subscription is appreciated. It helps us grow and be seen by more glitch connoisseurs. But whether you decide to subscribe or not, you are welcome here, and I'm glad you found us. First glitch. Okay, so this happened to me a while back, and I still can't shake the feeling. I had been looking for a job for weeks with no luck, and I was getting pretty desperate. I just wanted something to help my parents with the bills. So one day I was out on a run and I saw this "now hiring" sign outside a local supermarket. I got this feeling like I'd been here before. It was so weird. Déjà vu, you know? Anyway, I walked into the store and the feeling just kept getting stronger. I headed straight to the office where I knew the manager would be. As I walked, I saw a man leaving the office looking kinda disappointed, and that's when I knew what was going to happen next. It was like a movie playing in my mind. I knew exactly what the manager would say and what I would say back. So I walked into the office, and there he was, the manager, an older guy with glasses. He looked up from his desk and said, "How can I help you?" just like I knew he would. I took a deep breath and said, "Hi, I'm here to apply for the job. I saw the hiring sign outside. I'm really good with people and quick to learn." The words just came out like I'd practiced them. The whole conversation went exactly as I'd seen it in my mind. I talked about my previous experience working in retail and volunteering. The manager's face started to soften, and I could tell he was impressed. We chatted for a bit, and then he offered me the job. I couldn't believe it. I thanked him, shook his hand, and left the office. As I started my first shift at the supermarket, I couldn't help but smile. I couldn't help but think that the universe had somehow given me a glimpse into the future, and it had changed everything. Maybe the déjà vu thing wasn't so weird, but whatever it was, it had helped me get a job, and for that I was grateful. If you ever get that feeling, that strange sense of familiarity, don't ignore it. Pay attention. It might just change your life. Next glitch. I decided to go for a run this morning, and I grabbed my running shoes, the same ones I've been using for a few weeks now, and tried to slip my feet in, but they were too tight. I mean, my toes were squishing against the front. They used to be the perfect size. At first I thought, great, my feet are swollen, even though they looked completely normal. So I tried on my other shoes, including my older pair of running shoes, just to check, and they fit perfectly. No issues there, it's just this pair. So I thought somehow these are not my shoes. There was a mix-up, even though I couldn't remember a time or place where the mix-up could have happened since I last used them the week before. So I checked the label, and it still reads my size. I thought I was going mad, so I actually went to the store to compare them with a new pair of the same size and model. And guess what? The ones from the store are definitely bigger. I asked an employee if they knew what could have happened, but they weren't sure and were as baffled as I was. I left the store even more confused. It's like my shoes shrank overnight. Would love to hear your thoughts because this is messing with my head. Edit. Thanks for the suggestions, guys. No, I didn't put them in the dryer, and no, I don't have a mischievous sibling trying to prank me. Next glitch. This just happened to me, and I'm still a bit in shock. Not sure what's going on. I've lived in my apartment for about a year now, and ever since I moved in, I've had this problem with my upstairs neighbors. They're always making noise, stomping around, moving furniture, playing loud music, you name it. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night and I can't sleep because of it. I've asked them a couple of times to be quieter, but they just don't seem to care. So last night I was trying to get some sleep because I had an early meeting, and of course they start making a racket. I was so fed up, so I went upstairs to ask them to stop. I knocked on their door and I heard someone moving around inside, but nobody answered. I knocked again and I heard the locks being operated and their door opening, but it didn't actually open. I heard my neighbor's voice clear as day, as if he was right in front of me. He said, yeah, sorry about the noise, I'll turn it down. But the door was still closed, and I couldn't see anyone. I was so freaked out, I felt like I was losing my mind. I stood there for a moment not knowing what to do, and then the lock noises again. And the door actually opened, and there he was, my neighbor, saying the exact same thing. Yeah, sorry about the noise, I'll turn it down. I was so startled I just mumbled something and went back to my apartment. I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. I kept thinking about it, trying to make sense of it. It was like I had heard him before he actually spoke, like I had experienced the future for a brief moment. I've never believed in that kind of stuff, but now I don't know what to think. I haven't talked to my neighbor since then, and I'm kind of scared too. What if it happens again? I don't know if I can handle it. I just hope it was a one-time thing, and it doesn't happen again. Next glitch. I was on this road trip with my friends, and we decided to take a detour through the countryside to see some sights. As we were driving, we got lost and our map apps were not working right. The road kept getting narrower and bumpier, and we found ourselves surrounded by dense forest on both sides. The light was fading, and the dense trees made it feel even darker than it was. We were starting to get worried when we finally saw a sign pointing to a village. Now the sign actually said village, and not the name of the village. At the time, we didn't think it was too weird and figured we'd stop there, ask for directions, and get back on track. But when we entered the village, it was nothing like we expected. The buildings were all wrong. They looked like they were from the future or something. I've never seen anything like it. The buildings were made of strange materials that looked like a mix between glass and metal, but it wasn't shiny and it had a weird texture. The colors were all off too. All these shades I couldn't quite place, with green and blue and white reflections. And the shapes, they were all asymmetrical, like they had been designed by a mad artist. Some buildings looked like they were about to tip over and fall on the street. Others looked half-finished, with beams sticking out in all directions. We got out of the car, and the air felt different, like it was thicker, and it had this strange smell. Not bad, but not like anything I've ever smelled. We looked around for someone to ask for directions, but the streets were empty. The village seemed deserted, but it didn't feel abandoned. It was like everyone had just vanished. The strangest part was the silence. It was eerie. There were no birds, no insects, just this heavy silence. We decided to explore a bit, hoping to find someone. We walked around the village, and the more we saw, the weirder it got. There were no cars, no bikes, no signs of life. We found a park, and the plants were all wrong too. They looked like plants, but not like any I've ever seen. They were all these strange shapes and colors, like they were from another planet. Some of them looked like giant dandelions, but red, and the others, I'm not sure how to describe. We finally came across a building that looked like it might be a town hall or something. We went inside and it was empty, but it looked like people had just left. There were papers on desks, cups of coffee that were still warm. We called out, but no one answered. It was starting to get dark, and we were getting freaked out. We decided to leave, but when we got back to where we parked the car, it was gone. We panicked and started running towards the road where we entered the village. The air felt colder now, and the silence was pressing down on us. As we ran, we heard a strange humming sound. and then everything shifted. It was only a split second, and suddenly we were back on the main road, and our car was there, and the map apps were working again. We jumped in the car and drove as fast as we could. We didn't stop until we got to the next town, where we got a hotel room and tried to process what happened. We talked about it for hours, but none of us could make sense of it. We decided to go back the next day to see if the village was still there. But when we drove back, there was nothing. Just forest, as if the village had never existed. We still talk about it sometimes, but we have no explanation. It was like a glimpse into another world, or maybe another time. Next glitch. So I've got this story about my washer, and it's kind of a weird one. Me and my girlfriend, we got this old washer off Craigslist, and it's secondhand. Sometimes it just stops working. You'll load it up and it'll start filling with water like it's gonna work. And then it just stops. It'll sit there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then it'll start up again for a few seconds and stop again. It's super annoying, but usually, if we bang on it for a while, it'll start working again. Well, the other day I was doing a load of laundry, and of course it happened again. I tried to get it working, but it just wouldn't start, so I yelled for my girlfriend to come help. She tried for like 15 minutes and couldn't get it to work either. We even started watching YouTube videos to see if we could figure it out, but nothing was working. We tried messing with the hood switch and it still didn't work. Finally, we decided to unplug it and let it rest for a bit. Anyway, I'm sitting on the toilet and I remember reading this post online about a woman who couldn't find something in her house. She asked her operator to help her find it, and then she found it right away. So I figured, why not? I asked my operator to please make the washer work. We were so tired of trying to fix it and we just wanted it to work. Then I left to run an errand. Not even 5 minutes later, my girlfriend texts me and says the washer's working. I couldn't believe it. When I got home, I asked her what she did to make it work, and she just said she plugged it in. I started laughing and said, "Thanks, operator." She asked who that was, and I said, "You know, the person who's running my life," and I pointed up. We both just laughed. I couldn't believe it. It's like the washer only does this to me. I don't know why, but maybe my operator does. Next glitch. I hope this is a good place to share my story, and I'm sorry if my writing is a bit all over the place. So I went to the doctor today because I had this really bad cough. I sat there for about 30 minutes while the doctor did all the usual checkup stuff. I'm sitting there at the table, and the doctor is right across from me, writing up some prescriptions for cough medicine and whatnot. Suddenly there's this knock on the door, and this guy walks in without waiting for an answer. He's kind of tall, and he looked about 30 or 40, with thinning blonde hair, and he's wearing a checkered shirt and jeans. I figure he must be the next patient, and he's just eager to get his appointment over with. I give him a quick glance and go back to waiting for the doctor to finish writing. The doctor tells him to wait outside and he'll be with him in a minute. But the guy just stands there in the doorway, not moving. Then I see something really weird out of the corner of my eye. I look at the guy again and it's hard to describe, but his face was all messed up. It looked like a glitch, like when a video file gets corrupted. His face was all these shades of pink, and it looked like it was all scrambled and pixelated. I only saw it for a second, and then the guy turned around and walked out. When he turned, I saw that his face looked flat and didn't have any features, like a Lego figure. I was so surprised that I didn't even think about it for a moment. I thought maybe it was just my brain playing tricks on me because I was tired, or maybe it was some weird optical illusion. But then the doctor looked at me, and he had this really puzzled look on his face. He stopped writing and said, "Did you see that?" His face. I just nodded and we didn't talk about it anymore. He gave me the prescriptions and I left the office, feeling kind of dazed. When I walked out, the guy was sitting there in the hallway, looking at his phone, and his face was completely normal. Next glitch. I swear, this is not a joke or anything. I'm just looking for some kind of explanation, anything that might make sense of what I saw. So I work late and I was heading to my car in the underground parking lot. It was past midnight and the place was almost empty with just a few cars scattered around. The only lights were these dim lamps that cast long shadows on the walls. It's always a bit creepy down there, but I've never had any problems. But that night, as I was walking to my car, I saw something moving on the floor. I stopped and looked down, and there it was. This small creature, about 4 inches tall, was just sitting there. It was like a ball of goo, almost spherical and blobby. Its skin was this strange shade of purple, almost translucent, like it was glowing from the inside. It had these big, round eyes that seemed too big for its tiny face, and they were staring straight at me. It had 6 or 8 legs sticking out from its body, and they looked like little straight sticks, maybe 2 inches long, just stiff sticks that didn't seem to move. It was like an octopus, but not really, because its legs were so rigid and its body was so blobby. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. I was just staring at it, not knowing what to do. I couldn't take my eyes off it, and it seemed to be looking back at me with curiosity or maybe fear. Its big eyes were unblinking, and I could see them darting around like it was trying to figure out what I was. I remember thinking how absurd it was that I was having a staring contest with this weird creature. Then it started to sink into the floor. I don't know how else to describe it. It was like the concrete floor became liquid or something. The creature started to sink into it slowly, like it was being pulled down into the floor by some invisible force. Its eyes never left me, and it looked almost sad or scared, like it didn't want to go. I could see its blobby body getting distorted, and its legs, still rigid, disappearing into the concrete. It was so strange, like watching something dissolve into quicksand. And then it was gone. There was no trace of the creature. I got into my car and left as fast as I could, my mind racing. I've been back to that parking lot many times since, and I've never seen it again. I don't know what it was, or where it came from, or where it went, but it was real. I know it was. I can't forget its eyes, the way it looked at me like it was reaching out for help. I can't help but wonder what would have happened if I had reached down to touch it. Would it still be there? Or would it have disappeared anyway? I just hope that wherever it is, it's okay. Next glitch. 2 days ago, I had the most strangest experience ever. I do not smoke or take drugs and do not drink ever. Yet I had an experience that I just cannot explain or even comprehend how it could have happened. I tried Googling and came across this subreddit. Thought I'll post here to see if I can make some sort of sense of what happened. Friday evening I was feeling hungry, so decided to get some food from my local fish and chip shop. I fancied a grilled lamb shish, so I phoned the shop and asked if they can start cooking it, as I didn't want to go into the shop and wait for them to cook it. I asked the chip shop owner how long it will take to get ready, and he said 15 minutes. I said I will make my way to him in 10 minutes. The shop is only 2 minutes drive away from where I live. I went upstairs and changed my clothes and then left to go to the shop. I drove there, went in, and got my food. There was 3 other customers at the shop, a mixed-race woman and 2 other males. The 2 males stood out as one was a very tall African and the other was an Indian, and they were definitely a couple. I thought it was very cute. Anyway, I left with my food and went home. I got home and realized that I forgot to get myself a drink with the meal. I sat down and ate. After finishing the food, I cleared up and then went to feed my cats, which are in a home cattery in my garden. I then went upstairs and changed back into my pajamas. I came back downstairs and picked up a vinyl record to listen to. I sat on the sofa to relax when my mobile phone rang. I pick up the phone and it's the guy from the chip shop. He is telling me that the food is ready and they are waiting for me. I told him I've already come and collected the food over 30 or 40 minutes ago. He told me I didn't, as I only called 20 minutes ago to order the food. At this point I was confused and thought I must have dozed off, but I definitely was not tired or sleeping. I went back upstairs and changed and then drove to the shop, still feeling very confused. When I got to the shop, I saw the same 3 customers again, and the 2 guys were exactly how I saw them the first time. I remember thinking this is some weird déjà vu. At this point I made sure I got my drink as I knew I forgot it before, but as I was doing it I felt that all of this was very strange. I went home and sat down with the food. I had a couple of chips and realized I can't have any as I am full and I can clearly see my belly is bloated. I knew at that point that I've had my food already, so what the hell was going on? I checked the bin to see if there was rubbish from the food I had prior. There wasn't. I checked the cat food and it looked like I haven't used any tins yet. But I am 100% sure I did all that already. I then checked my phone and saw that I called the chip shop at 7:47. The chip shop then called me at 8:13. I wasn't laying down or resting when I made that call. I was busy with some housework. What the hell did I experience between 7:47 and 8:13? I have never experienced anything remotely like this before. Any help trying to make sense of this would be appreciated. Next glitch. So I've got to tell you this wild story that happened to me last week. I swear I couldn't make this up if I tried. The whole thing started on a Monday morning when I found a shiny penny on the sidewalk as I was walking to work. Lucky penny, so I picked it up. The next day, as I was leaving the gym, I spotted another shiny penny. It was sitting right there on the bench in the locker room, and I thought, what are the chances? I picked it up, and for the rest of the day I couldn't help but wonder if the 2 pennies were somehow connected. On Wednesday, as I was taking out the trash, I found yet another shiny penny sitting right on top of the trash can lid. I was starting to wonder if someone was pranking me. For the next 3 days, I kept finding pennies all over the place. I found one on the steps of the library, one on my desk at work, and even one on the shelf in my own closet. Every time, they were shiny and new. I couldn't believe it. On the 7th day, I was out shopping for groceries, and I found the last penny right on top of a stack of cereal boxes. I was absolutely bewildered. Why was I finding these pennies, and who was leaving them behind? On the 8th day, I went back to the supermarket to pick up some last-minute items for dinner. While I was waiting in line to check out, I noticed a little kid in front of me. He looked really distressed as he tried to pay for some toilet paper. I overheard the cashier say, "I'm sorry, you're 7 cents short." The kid's face fell, and he started fumbling around in his pockets for any spare change. I couldn't help but smile as I realized that I had the perfect solution to his problem. Without a second thought, I handed the kid the 7 pennies that had mysteriously appeared in my life over the past week, and which I had kept in my pocket. His face lit up with surprise and gratitude as he looked up at me. "Thank you, mister," he said, his voice full of genuine appreciation. I smiled back at him and shrugged. "No problem," I said. "I guess these pennies were meant for you." As I left the supermarket, I couldn't help but feel a sense of amazement. Maybe the universe had been guiding me towards that moment all week, leading me to be in the right place at the right time. Whatever the reason, I was glad I could help that kid, and I felt a warm sense of satisfaction that I had done something good. And who knows, maybe those pennies will continue their journey, bringing luck and happiness to others along the way. If you're still listening, you're the best. Thank you. Hit that like button if you want. See you next time, friends.